And we're live. What's up, everyone?
Hey yo. Hey yo there.
All right, Jamie from QuickMail.io, the founder of the best cold outreach platform out there, and
Jack from Sales Spread, the guy who gets you appointments, bro.
I like the bro at the end.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I
Yeah.
lived in California for a while, so I get to say it, right?
Well, there you go. So yesterday, I think I was sending Jack an email, a telegram actually, asking him like, "Yo, Jack, what are we gonna talk about tomorrow?" And I think I proposed. What did I propose?
Ballroom dancing in the modern era.
No way. Anyway, something cold email related. And then I think you got actually excited on another topic, which is let's review LinkedIn profiles. So that's cool. Where does that come from? Why did you get excited about this?
Yeah, well, um, I'm excited about tweaking profiles lately because of a few things. So we had a couple guests that turned me on to why
Yeah.
having an updated profile that doesn't read like a CV. Instead, it's more like a sales page, as it should be. Nathaniel Bibby and then
Yep.
Dragos from Crop Studio was kind of like, look, your prospects are going to check you out. And forgive me, I'm like, I'm hitting send on my newsletter to let them know that we're live right now. So I'm sure that email's riddled with
Do you want me to fill the blank or
grammatical
fill the
errors. No,
void?
I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't. So it's sent, and now I'm full screen,
Nice.
single tasking together. But yeah, so they basically pointed out when you send an email, people check you out. A lot of the times it's your website, but sometimes, especially if you're doing LinkedIn outreach, it's definitely going to be your profile. I'm not going to book a call with somebody who contacts me on LinkedIn before I check out their profile. And for cold email, a lot of the times, if I'm kind of on the fence, I'm going to see what's going on with your company, with your role at that company, with what it is that you're
Yeah.
doing. And there's a final reason, and it can have a serious impact on your invite acceptance rate. And I just have been doing some experiments this week where we just tweaked like one part of the LinkedIn profile, and true story, 2x the percentage of people that
Ooh.
accept, right?
What
And it's
was
kind of
it?
fun
Like,
too.
is that like, was it like the sort of like title stuff, or was it like more in the details, or the picture, anything that, jumped to mind as to a big thing that,
Well,
the sort of like 80/20
think about it.
changes.
Yeah, think about it. What do you see when I send you an invite, Jeremy?
Well, your picture, for sure. That's probably the biggest thing that come to my face. Like, in fact,
Okay.
just let me see. I was on my invite network stuff. And yeah, so we see your face, your name, and then under that your title, and after that the personalization invite with just a few
Right.
words. Of course, you don't see the
So,
whole invite.
okay. So there's like a title, but it's more like the title of your profile. So you have a job title, and if you don't actually have
Yeah, yeah,
like a
sure.
specific title, it's going to say Jeremy and then whatever your title is on LinkedIn.
Yep.
But you can mess with that. You can call it basically a header, and that's something that you can make sure that all of your prospects see when you send them that invite message. So it's super important to get that headline right.
Can you
I
give
think
us
that's what
some?
they call it.
Yeah. Could you give us some example, or maybe the exact thing that you changed? But I'm more interested in the idea. Like, did that move from like CEO or founder of XYZ to, you know, bring you 10 times your leads, or was what was the sort of transition that make the
Yeah,
big
so I've
difference?
done both. I've done both of those tests. Like, I
Benefits, yeah,
can,
versus title.
yeah, I can tell you sometimes title works really well. So if you're the CEO, you don't have to mess around with it that much because that title itself pulls a lot of weight. The only way you can make it a little bit better is if you work for a well-known company. For people that you're reaching out to, that's a huge win. So like if the CEO of JetBlue Airlines reaches out to me, I love the company, I'm obviously going to connect with that person just because brand recognition, and then at that company, it's like, oh, definitely would, as opposed to think about some of the campaigns we run are for like senior biz dev at a company, and not so I don't say that as a joke because we're crushing it for that biz dev job title. It's just not the same. It's just not the same. And I'm going to say that if you dress up your LinkedIn profile like just another salesperson, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Now, let me go back and answer that first question. 2 of the tweaks I did was like, I removed a straightforward pitch and a title. So imagine you sell SEO, and I'm going to pick on SEOs for a moment here because this week I'm not
Yeah,
sure
that's
why,
too
but
easy. You can bash them. Go for it.
yeah, but the weird thing is like I had a number of SEOs reach out to me for consulting this week, and I told both of them, I was like, okay, so, and again, this is, I need you, I'm assuming because you're all about SEO and content, right? Like in 5 years, that's going to be your driver. What have you been doing today to help, boost that up? Tell me about your organic leads. Let's see if we can sort of work backwards here. I'm like, I don't really do SEO for myself. I just get clients on cold outreach. And I'm like kind of bummed out. Like you have to eat your own dog food a little bit, or else why would like.
Well, you'll be surprised. It's like HubSpot. HubSpot was all about inbound.
Correct.
And you read the book about HubSpot, and the guy was just saying like, in fact, it was just like all outbound to sell their inbound funnel. That's funny. Hey,
what does that tell you about the channel?
Yeah, exactly. What do you make of the comment where one person on Facebook say there's too many people having the title CEO that are doing outreach, and it says that title of sales is more believable. What do you make of that?
If you're doing it the wrong way, then it makes a lot of sense. Like a CEO is not going to ask you if there's a pain point at your company for this. Like that's kind of like a classic biz dev call, and that would make more sense for a business development person or an SDR. But if you're using a CEO account, which we do quite frequently, to start conversations with other like CFOs, CEOs, and just sort of back up that conversation and says, hey, I like what you're doing. We're in the same space. Let's have a chat. That tends to work really well because that's more of what the platform LinkedIn was used for, and that's to kind of establish and grow a network of your peers. And if you're a CEO reaching out like an SDR, you're doing it right.
I guess that's a fantastic point you're making, is that the big difference between, obviously cold email outreach versus LinkedIn outreach is when I receive the email, I have to take what you say at face value unless I have to go on and do my due diligence. Like I'm going to check out your LinkedIn profile. I'm going to check out, your company website and stuff like that to figure out effectively what type of CEO are you? Are you like a CEO type? I'm alone in my garage room and in my garage and I'm telling myself CEO, or am I actually, the CEO of like a massive company? And I guess with the LinkedIn stuff, it's kind of like pre-chewing all that information to the user straight away. So, I guess there is a sort of like credibility you can play on when you are doing CEO by LinkedIn outreach versus CEO by, cold email outreach. And in fact, just to close the loop on this, because
I'm not following. What are you saying?
What I'm saying is that it's easier to sort of like you can play the humble brag or the humble person when you're actually doing it through LinkedIn profile. If you are like, you have your pedigree and then he's like, you're a company, 10,000 people, whatever, and so on. People will say like, oh, okay, he's like, I see what the CEO means, versus like, oh, there's just one employee in his firm and it's himself. And it's like, oh, okay. So it's more visible, it's out there when you're doing the LinkedIn thing. And actually, to turn the loop, is that I asked myself this question at the very beginning of QuickMail when I was like pretty much alone and I was working on a product. I wasn't necessarily working on the company, and so therefore it never really felt right to call myself CEO. So in fact, I call myself just founder, and I think that's kind of like resonates. That resonated better with my outreach. It feels like you're a bit more maybe humble, or at least you're calling yourself the sort of like right title in a sense.
Yeah. I've got one last sort of along these lines comment here before we get into the actual profiles themselves. And these are going to be, I've got 3 I have to review with everybody. I'm going to call out my 3 heroes for LinkedIn profile creation. One of them will surprise you, 2 of them won't. And that's a conversation I had with a client who was basically like, okay, it was a CEO and the business development VP. Might not have even been VP. Well, let's call it VP Biz Dev.
Okay, fair enough.
So the conversation was, okay, we're going to have the Biz Dev do the outreach. And I was thinking, I was like, do we want to change? They were reaching out to marketers. And I was like, Biz Dev is kind of close to marketing. It would be really nice to swap your title real quick to like a marketing role, like or sales and marketing at, and that way you can sort of have this.
Let me swap my cap this week.
Effect. Sort of. It was a cheap trick, right? But we talked about the pros and cons to it. The pros would be you'd have this liking thing. I would have loved to have been able to use. I'm reaching out to fellow marketers. Wow, that would have been a slam dunk, right? But it also wasn't quite true. Wasn't quite true. And the feedback I got was like, hey, I'm game for what works, but I know I'm active on LinkedIn. I don't want the world to congratulate me on this new role. And the CEO was like, yeah, also we're hiring a marketing person pretty soon, so that'd be weird. And I was like, look, let's start BizDev. And I'm happy to say that BizDev's crushing it. We're going on to multiple months now, but the idea is there's pros and cons to swapping your, let's say to dressing up your LinkedIn profile in a way that's not 100% authentic. So I think if a founder title feels better, go for it. The good news is you can be successful with a whole lot of different titles, but it is worth revisiting that one area. I think is crucial to making sure you kind of resonate with your prospects when you send that invite message. And because look, when we need to stack the deck in our favor in every opportunity we can. And if I send an invite message and I can tweak the copy there and the personalization, but if I can also tweak the headline that's shared, you need to do that, right? Or else we're leaving something on the table.
Okay.
We don't have a secret word, Jeremy. I'm going to private chat you one right now.
All right.
If you're watching this and you have a specific question, or you think that we're, I don't know, talking about something insane, just message us a comment and we'll give you a shout out.
Okay, I'm gonna send you your secret word, and for those who don't know the game, we basically send each other some secret word that the other has to place in the conversation. Just send one mine to Jack. Mm-hmm. Do you know what that is, Jack, by the way? That's gonna be okay? Jack is a pro. He can make everything work. Well, just do a Google.
British?
I'm not sure where it comes from.
It has to be English. That's not good.
Well, there is probably, this also exists in England. So anyway, and then if you find it, just let us know in a comment. That's going to be fun. All right. Today, I think, Jack, you posed that we just look at some profile then. Do you want to start maybe sharing your screen and then we can go through some of them?
I reckon I will share my screen here.
Cool.
Let me just pull up these 3 people I am happy to feature here.
Oh, there's an interesting comment on Facebook. One guy say your title should never outshine your prospect because, the insecurity and stuff. That's an interesting one. What do you think of this? Like, if I come as a, senior developer and I contact junior developer, well, I guess for developer that may be different. But, like senior biz dev or like someone super successful. I'm not sure if someone successful reach out to me or like a big title. Do you think that makes it? That makes any difference?
I'm not sure I'm getting the question.
Well, if my title is outshining the title of my recipient.
In what, like an example?
Well, like I mentioned, like I'm a senior senior VP, whatever, and I'm reaching out to, higher manager or like sub senior VP,
That happens all the time, though, right?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't think that's a problem, honestly.
Is that what
It's
they
like, in
mean
fact, I
by
probably
outshining?
will be annoyed the other way around. Like, I'm the CEO and I risk being outreached by, a junior biz dev. I think that would be the more annoying thing.
Correct. Yeah, I don't worry about that.
Yeah, me neither.
Typically, look, I mean, here's sort of the unsaid truth that you should be picking up in the background here is like, I think it's starting to matter more and more what your network looks like, what your credibility looks like on something like LinkedIn or even, I mean, your website. Like, this is just kind of some firepower. It'll help you get through gatekeepers, won't it? So.
Yep, I agree. Let's move on.
All right. Before we move on, you have to give me another secret word because this is not English.
Oh, come on, it's a toy. I mean, I'm sure you may give that to your kids.
Just say it. Say it for everybody. Say it for everybody
Okay.
so they can hear. And my US listeners, back me up. What the heck?
I'll be saying it with my French accent. It's bokeh.
Not a thing. That is.
Right.
That we don't import whatever that was
Come on.
across the pond. That's BIBOUOQUET. Come on. I gave Jeremy the easiest word.
Try this one. This one's okay, right? You know about this one.
Yeah, sure. Sure. You're so European. Okay. Let me share
Fair
my
enough.
screen. Let me see
Okay.
here. So then, yeah, let's see. Tell me if this works. Do you see an infinite loop of
No, that's it. Bringing it to the stream.
what about now?
Yeah, that's it.
I'm glad
We
I
got it.
switched
Woo.
I'm glad I switched it because
It was my secret word.
My secret word was there, yeah. All right, starting off, no surprise. Nathaniel, big shout out. He was on our cast. He sort of, I don't know, rocked my world in a lot of ways about the potential of LinkedIn months back and just how to do it a little bit better. And I think
And it
he's
was
got it figured
episode,
out.
for those who are interested, it's episode 149, so 149. Go and check it out. It was good.
Yeah.
It was a really good episode.
Yeah, that one's got like one of the most downloads, at least on YouTube. So anyways.
Yeah, some stuff jumped to mind straight away is that he changed his pictures. Completely
Yeah,
different.
He sure did.
Yep.
Yeah, but
And I prefer this one.
Yeah, we can speak for a moment. Why not? Pictures, okay. I think a relatable but professional picture is important. And if you have an iPhone now, you're capable of doing that. You don't need to hire a photographer. So just get some good lighting, do the portrait mode, and there off you go. The banner looks like it's a chance to get a little bit more either
Authority.
personal or credible.
Yeah, credibility. That's the one.
Yeah.
Because I think here he's got a picture of probably his team. So like you could see like, okay, he's legit. He's got lots of
This was
people.
a school. I feel like he spoke in
maybe.
school or something. These are all like
Maybe
young
it is.
kids.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe he's having a sweatshop.
Philanthropist or something. Okay, but either way, this is I think I'll say the number one most important area that you want to be paying attention to for LinkedIn, and this is your headline here. And you get to dress this up a lot differently than your actual job title, which would be here. So notice, this is kind of weird, but it says a lot. Managing Director and CEO, two job titles that are present. However, he chose to go with Managing Director instead of CEO. Does that tell us something? I'm not quite sure. Maybe it does. Maybe Managing Director speaks a little bit larger. Maybe going back to that first comment, CEO is a little bit hard to believe, perhaps.
Well, I think it
But
could be depending on your audience, like you say, right? If you're trying to contact other managing directors, to
yeah,
sell your course, to sell, whatever you have to sell, I think it goes easier, like, to use the liking principle.
mm,
And
mm.
and he may not be the CEO per se, he may just be,
No, he is. It says it right here. Right.
yeah, and they still say present. You're right. So
Okay.
yeah, I guess.
So let's see, like, what I want to really drill down on is use this space to establish credibility, like speaker. If you're an author, put that there. I put I'm a podcast host, I think co-host, so that's
Yeah.
um, helpful. Notice like the kind of diamond text
Yeah,
breakers
I
using to
use that
basically
too.
put a bullet point sheet here. Awards that he won. Um, Best use of LinkedIn. Congrats, he did it again for 2020. And I just think it's very hard to do a better job of establishing credibility in 2 lines here.
Yeah, I would question one thing, or at least I'd like to get your take on it. What do you think of, like, should I care really if he's, the best use of LinkedIn, unless he's offering a LinkedIn type of, consultancy? Do you
Which
see
is
what I mean? It's
exactly
like,
right. Which is
yeah.
exactly what he's doing.
Otherwise, I don't think he makes, it's like, who cares, Like, for example, if I put best use of
Uh,
LinkedIn and I have a cold outreach, email software, then who cares? Should
well,
he?
it's hard to win that award if you're not all about it. So I don't think there's anyone listening who has that problem. But I have seen this used like dad or, something funny like mustache aficionado or something, and they have like a kind of a funny picture there. Like humor can sometimes work, or at least just make yourself a little bit more approachable. But I wouldn't necessarily see that as an issue you have to worry about. But yeah, keep it relevant. I want somebody to take a glance at your headline and know right away what you can do for them and why they should trust you. If you do that, I think you're making a very good use out of it, this headline area. And again, I'll put one small caveat there. You don't necessarily need to do both. If you just make it plain and simple how you help and who you help, I think you've done a better job than most.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Okay, neat. Let's keep going. All right, and this is about section is worth taking a look at. I'm going to focus. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I do want to highlight the CTAs in an about section. So when Nathaniel was on our show, he said, if your LinkedIn profile reads like a CV, you've done it wrong. Instead, it's more of a sales page. So think about that next step you want this visitor to do, very much as if they were on your website, right? So in fact, I'll just highlight it. So the CTA is get in touch with a message, add on Instagram, or check out YouTube, right? And then also smart idea, a couple of testimonials,
Testimonials.
and that's it.
That's a nice one.
Right, right. I mean, that's not a bad idea, right? Can you see this backfiring anyway if you put 4 strong testimonials? And what's kind of nice is like Nathaniel obviously has a crazy amount of recommendations here because this is his thing. 91, but he still chose to put 4 up there because I think there's a large percentage of visitors that aren't going to bother to scroll that far down. So I'm going to give him a huge brownie point for that.
And small tip, in fact, for for testimonials on recommendations, actually do help the person just telling, what you'd love them to highlight, because sometimes they don't really know what to say, or they may say like they have a choice between lots of things, but you may want to say like, look, I'm trying to put across that I'm really good at Facebook marketing, for example. So if you can touch on that, that'll be good. And and that way that makes the life easier of whoever has to write you the testimonial.
Yeah. I always laugh at this a little bit, but there's a number of people I just know flat out because they tell me that they're like, "Hey, I'm not going to write this, but if you want to write it for me, send it to me. I'll just give you a thumbs up if you can use it." Um,
Yep.
that's as good as them writing it, if you ask me. I mean, if you get their stamp of approval and you save them time, what's the difference? So a lot of times, instead of asking for a review, I'll just be like, "Hey, I put like bullet points, a couple things that you may like want to talk about in the review, or you can maybe
Use this one. Yeah.
write something like this, you know?" So yeah, I think the easier you make it on folks, the more reviews you'll get.
Yeah. In fact, I've been, just as
So
a small parenthesis, I've been introduced to this technique when I ask, someone to actually review and he say, yeah, just write something, I'll post it. I was like, okay. And then I found like, it is actually quite nice. I know what I want him to, compliment me on. And then I gave it to
yeah.
him and then he posted it because he thought it was good. So all work, all good. All good
Yeah.
there.
Trying to think here if there's any more stuff. I
Well,
mean, there's a lot of content here, so I think if we're
one thing
just
I'd
looking
like
at
to
one
see is the
is
groups,
the
right? Because now at some point in LinkedIn,
uh,
exactly,
groups.
it's like I don't see
Groups
that.
don't. I don't think that's
But at some
much of
point, it
a
used to be a
thing
sort
right
of like
now.
badge, on your LinkedIn page.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think groups did what they wanted to do, but I'll just say fill in the whole profile because you never know what's going to catch somebody's eye if you share a similar volunteer group or um, if just one of your keywords shows up that someone's searching for, that's going to help you out, right? So I would fill this out in its entirety. I'm ready to move on. Jeremy, do you have anything else?
I think we could use that also as a baseline for the next one we're gonna see, and then see what we
Okay,
like or what
but
we
be
don't like.
careful. Be careful because that's like using an email as a baseline. Like,
Fair point.
let's see. Now, this
Okay.
next person is not a LinkedIn expert, but this is the best guy I have ever seen in terms of clarifying sales messages and clear communication. So I chose him to see and really just tear down how he did on his LinkedIn profile. I'm talking about my man, Donald Miller. Donald Miller is the Story Brand CEO, and he wrote a book called Story Brand. The subtitle, but it's fabulous. And the best part, he chose to keep it very, 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 very simple. And I'm talking about his headline, and I'm talking about his about section. And I will read his about section. It says,
Yeah,
I help
it's awesome.
companies clarify their message so customers engage, period. And his headline is CEO at Story Brand.
You can't make it clearer for the about. I mean,
No, you can't. But let's see where he builds credibility, right? Because he did not use the multiple bullet points, author, best-selling, this and that, million copies sold. He could have, but he didn't.
yeah, you could have. That's true.
He didn't even put the background picture. And I kind of am picking on him because I would imagine he's not so worried about LinkedIn. But
Yeah, it kind of
being
makes you
the
think that he doesn't really care. That's not his channel.
perhaps, but let's see if there's something here that we're missing. So, best-selling author, New York Times, a couple of his books here,
17
present,
years.
right? CEO, and nothing else, right?
That's
So
it. No recommendation.
thoughts on Donald. I mean, look, he is the master at clear messaging, but did he get anything wrong?
Well, when I see that, like I mentioned, I don't think, it doesn't scream to someone, who wants to be seen and present on LinkedIn. It does have 500 connections for, but when I
But
look at this,
he's got some activity,
that's
right?
true.
Like, let's see what he's doing here.
But you see what I mean? It makes me think like this is someone who uses LinkedIn just to stay in touch with people.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
And not
And
someone who use LinkedIn to sell, what he has or
so let me do a little bit of tearing down here. This blank picture is an easy chance for someone like Donald to put the cover of his latest book and number one New York Times bestseller.
Yep.
That would stand out to me. And a very simple tweak, CEO at StoryBrand and best-selling author helping companies clarify. I mean, he could have even put this somewhere in the headline. So CEO at StoryBrand, triangle bullet point thing, helping companies clarify their message so customers engage, and then use the about section to maybe put some testimonials at the very least about StoryBrand, and then a call to action that's leading them to probably the website since he's not so engaged here. Anything else?
Yeah, I'm wondering in a sense that if you add effectively, helping companies to clarify their message next to your CEO title kind of thing in the headline that, as you mentioned, I'm wondering if this screams I'm doing consultancy, instead, or we have an agency to help with that. And maybe he has, maybe he hasn't, but
he does.
If he,
yeah, that's what StoryBrand is. They
okay,
help brands with that.
Yeah, so my point is that if you are just an author or like that's that's what you do, and of course you have some merchandise and stuff like that, even for your book is to help company clarify their message, you probably wouldn't put that in your headline. You will more put the emphasis on author writing many books and stuff like that, wouldn't you? Because
yeah, but remember the purpose of this episode is to help people do a better job with outreach. And I think if you're doing outreach, if you're hustling, you're not this fancy best-selling author that never has to make a single sales call or look for another deal. That's not for you. But if you are out there networking and trying to book meetings, I'm going to say that there are things that you need to work on your profile that someone like Donald may not need to worry about,
Yes. What I had in mind is, again, I think it depends on your audience. So if Donald was actually contacting different publishing houses in outreach, maybe it's time to change your headline to, best-selling author, multiple times best-selling author, and those sort of things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
See what I mean?
Yeah, match the. In fact,
yeah, I think it needs to match your headlines, right,
here's
with
like
your
a
outreach.
secret that not a lot of people know. I will actually tweak this headline based on the segment that we're going after that month. So.
Clever.
Let's say you have a couple different use cases. You want to go after startups one month and then switch gears over to brick and mortar retail or whatever that is.
Right.
You can change a keyword or two and be a little bit more relevant. Just kind of be careful with how you use it, because we have to keep in mind that somebody is going to get that invite message and it may sit for a couple of weeks before they accept it. So you want to make sure it's still relevant, but you can modify this with some good results.
Are you going to change mine soon then?
Well, we're not doing LinkedIn outreach, so
oh yeah,
not. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move on to the last one. Dragos, big shout out. You also blew my mind. I think you're very good at copywriting and obviously branding. But if anyone's curious, a lot of my own LinkedIn profile came from inspiration from this gentleman, Dragos, hanging out in Romania. So big shout out. So let's see what I think he did really well here. Brand strategist and nerd. So there's some approachability, some a little bit of humor and just making it a little bit clear who he is very quickly, removing overwhelming. So this is like problem that he solves, guesswork from branding, right? And then job title at. So a lot of people's profile just looks like this, but I think this is really cool.
Yeah,
This
I like
is
the emoji as well.
brand strategist and nerd is sort of the authority, credibility boosting points he had to his disposal, I don't know, if you were selling Easter bunny chocolate, you might say like creator of the Kinder egg and other best-selling chocolate, whatever. Like this is your chance to mention your goods, and I think Dragos did a great job with it. Granted, we're not best-selling authors, or at least all of us aren't, and so my point is you don't need to be in order to stand out, and just show people very quickly what you can do for them, and I think that's it.
Yeah, people who are just tuning to the show through the podcast, there is also a small emoji, a nerd emoji, that I kind of like as well, which kind of reinforces the thing. I'm not sure if nerds has a positive perception for, so I'll be slightly careful with that. Like,
Yeah.
you see what I mean? It's like, is that...
You're a brand nerd, like copywriting nerd. I sort of just saying like obsessive on it. But again,
well, you could say it like that.
Like it, but...
You could say obsessing about, I don't know, blueberry stuff if you're like, selling blueberry shakes, whatever. No?
Maybe. Okay.
With a blueberry
look at
emoji
his
as well.
Image. Let's look at the image he did. Instead of putting like a photo, he did, but it says, got branding questions, let's chat, I'm open for brain picking, and then it's got a down arrow over the sort of contact buttons here, which is pretty cool.
Well, I think this is this may be like a side note, but I think this is really his key strength. It's like his website blew my mind. Like his approach about, you could have a website without any picture and it should be as appealing because of the content and where people actually do the other way around. They try to find good pictures to sort of draw people and then they try to slap, the text on it. And so big kudos to him to actually transform the header picture as just a text, an image with just text. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's badass, I think.
Yeah.
That fits very well his whole branding. Its whole thing is like that. So that makes sense.
Okay, so let's keep on keeping on here. About also very well done. Fan of emojis, and I think it's working. But I'll draw the attention to the same thing I did with Nathaniel. What's the CTA here? Okay, so we have some...
Show me a message here on LinkedIn.
That's ripe for personalization. So I would definitely comment on his love for camping or hiking or animal photography. But yeah, shoot me a message here on LinkedIn. Virtual coffees are on me. Yeah, so I think he's just, again, trying to have more of a personality, be approachable, and then just bringing people to shoot a message on LinkedIn, which kind of makes sense because they're already on the channel. So, yeah, he's kind of like leaning on a lot of like what I would consider pretty darn good copy to start somebody reading and then get them to take action here. Right. And it's kind of funny, maybe you're just curious about who this nutjob is. Well, I'm your #branding nerd, right? Okay, so beyond that, he does have some recent activity, and everything else is pretty much filled out as you would expect. So what do you got? Anything else here, Jeremy? I'm pretty satisfied at the teardown.
Yeah, I like it's clean. One thing we didn't probably dig too much into is some people have been staying at a position for a long time, and therefore it's sort of like there's a sort of imbalance between one position having maybe 2-3 lines and then the other position where the amount of time was not. And I think one thing that I've seen, I think it was with Nathaniel profile, where he has the same company, but he has multiple jobs inside the same company, and he was like trying to really emphasize different points for different, stage, like, and I think that's an easy thing that people can do to sort of like establish credibility on how, they've been able to not be stuck, 5-10 years into the same sort of like position and pigeonhole into one small thing, but actually show progress within the company and say, yes, I've accomplished some stuff. Look, I've been promoted to this. Now I'm like senior or VP or whatever kind of thing. And or being responsible from different part of the business. And I think that's an easy sort of like win to just show that you've got experience in that broad domain and, that sort of thing. Or like, for example, I use this strategy on my own profile by saying, well, I have to look at my own profile. But basically, I'm saying I put one thing on co-host of a podcast, and then you got that whole thing. So it's not even like historically speaking. It could be like, per domain of expertise that you have at that company. Does that make sense?
What is that? Yeah, I think so. But it helps with keywords or credibility or...
Hold on. Let me just check my one. So yeah, I got like multiple one. I got the founder of quickmail.io, but I got also like instructor for course.quickmail.io, where we're like teaching. It's basically you bring them into your world, and then just help them understand that you can offer maybe different things. And I think that's you can use a strategy for multiple ways. Like one, I'm not pigeonholed into one thing. Look, I'm serious, and I keep on building up stuff. Or I have multiple domain of expertise. Maybe that's your Facebook ad, awards on one thing, and then or as well SEO experts on another thing. Those sort of things like that. Or you're a speaker. You can invite me to come and do a speaking gig or those sort of things. Basically different offering actually could also be pretty good. But of course, it makes sense only on the last one, not on on previous one. It'll be like on the current one.
Yeah, so maybe if you're an SDR and you picked up some new training, or you won an award, or featured
good one.
or something. Definitely use that. Okay. But yeah, hopefully this is what I would consider more of the tip of the iceberg here. It was our first teardown with like LinkedIn profiles. But I think if you're serious about LinkedIn outreach, you need to pay attention to this. It's almost what I would consider getting your deliverability prepared before you do outreach. I considered, dress up your profile accordingly before you do LinkedIn outreach. They're kind of two sides of the same coin there. But I'm happy. I don't have anything else really to add. Did I miss anything, or you got anything else?
I'm sure we missed plenty of things, but I'm happier as well if we stop it here. I think hopefully that gives you some sort of like inspiration and some willingness to just revisit your profile from a recipient standpoint. So again, actionable tip is on your next cold outreach campaign, actually add your LinkedIn profile as a link and make sure your link is reinforcing your message of your outreach. Would you think it's a good advice, Jack?
Oh, well, I wasn't even really thinking about people doing just classic cold email outreach, but if you're doing like LinkedIn outreach, this is essential. I mean, you
that's a given. Yeah, that you have to.
Yeah, so do this before you send your next invite, or else you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. If anything, professional or iPhone professional photo with a great headline that shows people who you help and how, and ideally build some credibility, just like Nathaniel's did. But that's
well said.
That's a good action item for you if that is something you're going to undertake. But okay, cool.
All right,
Jeremy,
sounds good. Yeah, thanks, Jack. Good cast.
All right, everybody. See ya.
Bye.